Greetings, everyone, and a very warm welcome, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. The Girl Generation's support to the Africa-led movement has a vision of a world where girls and women can exercise their power and rights, have expanded choice and agency, and be free from violence, including FGMC. As partners and organizations begin to commemorate the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence globally, we at the Girl Generation recognize that FGMC is a serious form of gender-based violence against women and girls and have far-reaching consequences beyond the physical. As we engage in this discussion and share our thoughts, let's be mindful of the sensitive nature of FGMC and all forms of GBV and its impact on survivors. We encourage that this space be an open dialogue, have understanding, empathy, and create support to all survivors and partners. This webinar is part of the series that we had been having, starting with Voices from the Field, the proof of concept, which shed light on what interventions are proving to work to reduce FGMC in Kenya, and our last one that looked at girl-centered programming, which is the core foundation of our program. Today's webinar, titled Resourcing Grassroots Movements, seeks to highlight our grants mechanism program in Kenya, Ethiopia, Somaliland, and Senegal. In this webinar, we will listen to first-hand experiences of grantee partners, listen to successes achieved, challenges being faced, and what we're learning from this funding model. My name is Jacinta Mateshi Strawn. I am the team lead for TGG-ALM, the Girl Generation Support to Africa-led movement to end FGM. And I will be moderating this webinar. My co-moderators are Walter Wakesa and Sagda Mohammed, both grant officers, one in Kenya and the other in Somaliland. This webinar is being recorded and interpreted into French and Amharic. We also have included sign language interpretation. And let me ask Anne to add here the other support we are providing. Go ahead, Anne.
Thank you, Jacinta. And I want to also let the audiences know that for those who are using English or listening in English, please mute the original channel and go to the English channel, because today we have French speakers and we want to also hear them. For French speakers, you can select French channel. And for those who are speaking in Amharic or here in Amharic, please join the Korean channel, because we don't have the Amharic channel in this webinar selection. Back to you, Jacinta.
Thank you, Anne. At the end of the webinar, we will have a session for questions and answers. I do encourage you to type your questions and comments in the chat box as well, and they will be translated. As we start off, allow me to invite Mr. Soce to give us the opening remarks. Mr. Soce is the head of the Regional Inspectorate of Youth in Kolda, Senegal, since September 2023. His career spans several fields, including education, entrepreneurship, microfinance, and socio-economic research. A fervent defender of youth and gender equality, Soce is involved in projects aimed at empowering young people, protecting the rights of girls and women, and combating FGM. He makes a point of mobilizing communities to bring about lasting social change. Welcome, Mr. Soce.
Merci beaucoup. Merci. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je suis Cheikh Tidiane Soce, chef du service régional de la jeunesse de Kolda au Sénégal. C'est un honneur pour moi d'être parmi vous aujourd'hui pour ce webinaire organisé par The Girl Generation ALM et de contribuer à cet échange si important sur les ressources des mouvements de base pour mettre fin aux mutilations génitales féminines. Dans le cadre de mes responsabilités, je joue un rôle essentiel comme interface entre les autorités administratives et les partenaires du projet, notamment Option et Amref Health Africa, représentant le gouverneur de la région de Kolda dans toutes les activités liées au programme TGG-ALM. J'assure également le lien avec mon ministère de tutelle, à savoir le ministère de la Jeunesse, des Sports et de la Culture du Sénégal. Dans ce sens, mon rôle consiste à apporter des orientations et suggestions stratégiques pour le bon déroulement du projet dans la région, en cohérence avec les politiques de l'État du Sénégal. J'accompagne également les organisations bénéficiaires des subventions dans leurs activités communautaires, en facilitant leurs démarches administratives et en mobilisant les ressources locales en étroite collaboration avec les services déconcentrés de l'État relevant des départements de la jeunesse, de la famille, de la santé ou encore du développement communautaire. Je supervise et coordonne des actions des services placés sous ma responsabilité, notamment les centres conseils pour adolescents, qui sont les champions de la santé reproductive, et les centres départementaux pour l'éducation populaire et sportive. Je préside toutes les activités mises en œuvre par le consortium à travers Option et Amref dans le cadre de ce programme au niveau régional. Je tiens à souhaiter la bienvenue à chacun d'entre vous, participants, panélistes, experts et partenaires engagés dans la promotion de l'abandon des MGF et de l'excision. Votre présence ici témoigne de votre détermination à promouvoir les droits des filles et des femmes et à mettre fin à cette pratique néfaste qui continue à affecter des millions de vies à travers le monde. Dans un tel contexte, ce webinaire est une occasion pour mieux comprendre le modèle de financement de The Girl Generation, d'apprendre des expériences et témoignages des organisations locales bénéficiaires des subventions, d'identifier les meilleures pratiques et les défis rencontrés pour renforcer notre impact collectif. Ces objectifs sont essentiels pour accélérer les efforts en vue d'un avenir où les filles et les femmes pourront jouir pleinement de leurs droits et de leur autonomie. En effet, les MGF restent une réalité préoccupante en Afrique, avec plus de 200 millions de filles et de femmes affectées dans le monde, dont une grande majorité en Afrique subsaharienne. Malgré des progrès significatifs, cette pratique persiste sous l'influence de normes sociales, culturelles et religieuses profondément enracinées. Cependant, des initiatives gouvernementales et partenariats émergent pour lutter contre ce fléau. La mise en œuvre des lois interdisant les MGF dans de nombreux pays africains, y compris le Sénégal, où des campagnes de sensibilisation à grande échelle ont été organisées, des collaborations transfrontalières pour surveiller et prévenir les pratiques dans les régions où il est encore répandu, même si ces initiatives restent à renforcer, l'engagement croissant des leaders communautaires et religieux qui jouent un rôle clé dans le changement de mentalité, l'émergence de mouvements sociaux en vue de l'éradication des MGF. À côté des efforts louables, il est important de souligner l'apport du partenariat mondial dans ces dispositifs de promotion de l'éradication des MGF et de l'excision. Un exemple illustratif de cet engagement des partenaires est aujourd'hui celui du programme TGG-ALM à travers son mécanisme de subvention accordé aux organisations locales. Ce mécanisme est vital pour plusieurs régions. Un impact communautaire direct, Ces organisations connaissent mieux leur communauté et peuvent intervenir efficacement pour sensibiliser, éduquer et mobiliser. Renforcement des capacités, le soutien financier et technique leur permet de développer des stratégies innovantes durables pour éradiquer les MGF. Un changement durable en s'appuyant sur des mouvements locaux, nous bâtissons une résilience communautaire contre la réapparition des MGF. C'est une reconnaissance du rôle des communautés elles-mêmes en tant qu'acteurs du changement. Je suis donc particulièrement fier de partager 2 succès majeurs obtenus grâce au soutien du modèle de subvention TGG-ALM au Sénégal. D'abord, le renforcement de capacité des organisations communautaires. Plusieurs organisations locales ont bénéficié de formations et d'un accompagnement financier pour promouvoir l'abandon des MGF et au sein de leur communauté. Dans la région de Kolda, par exemple, des campagnes de sensibilisation communautaire, des forums, des dialogues sous diverses formes ont permis d'atteindre des centaines de familles et de susciter des engagements publics pour abandonner ces pratiques. Il y a également l'engagement des leaders communautaires et religieux. Grâce aux subventions, nous avons impliqué les leaders communautaires et religieux dans des dialogues ouverts. Cela a permis de lever certains tabous et de déconstruire les mythes entourant les MGF et excisions, contribuant ainsi à leur diminution dans plusieurs localités. Il y a également le renforcement de capacité des organisations communautaires. Il y a la promotion du leadership des survivants. Il y a la reconversion des anciennes exciseuses. L'une des avancées les plus marquantes a été l'abandon de la pratique des MGF par certaines anciennes exciseuses. Grâce aux subventions, elles ont pu bénéficier de formations et de soutien pour démarrer des activités génératrices de revenus. Aujourd'hui, elles jouent un rôle essentiel dans la sensibilisation de leur pairs qui résistent encore à abandonner cette pratique, devenant ainsi des alliés dans la lutte contre les MGF et excisions. Il y a la création également de réseaux communautaires de veille dans certaines localités. Des communautés de vigilance ont été mises en place pour surveiller et signaler les cas des MGF, facilitant une action rapide des autorités compétentes. Toutefois, malgré ces avancées, le chemin reste encore long. Il est essentiel, voire urgent, de travailler au renforcement des axes suivants. D'abord, le renforcement des mécanismes de suivi, évaluation et de gestion de la durabilité. Les engagements communautaires doivent être soutenus par des mécanismes concrets pour garantir leur pérennité. Il faudra également soutenir les collaborations transfrontalières, les MGF étant pratiquées dans plusieurs pays de la sous-région, comme la Guinée, la Guinée-Bissau, la Gambie. Il est essentiel de travailler avec les États voisins pour harmoniser les lois, échanger les bonnes pratiques et coordonner les efforts. Il y a également le fait d'élargir l'accès à l'éducation, sensibiliser les jeunes filles et garçons sur leurs droits est crucial pour briser ce cycle des MGF-ME. Mesdames, Messieurs, les jeunes sont le moteur du changement dans nos sociétés. À titre d'exemple, ils représentent dans la région de Kolda plus de 60% de la population. Leur mobilisation est essentielle pour porter un discours innovant, adapté aux réalités actuelles et exploitant notamment les plateformes numériques. Renforcer la vigilance communautaire en identifiant les zones à risque et en intervenant rapidement. Renforcer le leadership des filles, des garçons et surtout des jeunes survivants. Créer un mouvement intergénérationnel pour un changement durable. C'est donc l'occasion pour moi de remercier au nom de l'État du Sénégal cet important programme TGG-ALM pour cette approche innovante qui devrait inspirer beaucoup de partenaires au développement. Je remercie tous les participants, partenaires et intervenants pour leurs engagements inébranlables. Votre présence ici témoigne de l'importance de ce combat et de notre volonté commune de mettre fin aux MGF excisions. Je vous encourage à participer activement à ce webinaire, à poser des questions et à partager vos expériences. En conclusion, je vous invite tous à rejoindre cette vision portée par TGG-ALM, celle d'un monde où les filles et les femmes peuvent exercer leur pouvoir et leurs devoirs et leurs droits, avoir plus de soi et d'opportunités et être libérés de toutes les formes de violence, y compris les mutilations génitales féminines. Ensemble, nous pouvons faire de cette vision une réalité. Je vous remercie pour votre aimable attention. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Soce, for those very encouraging, supportive words that you've shared and reminding us that girls and women need to be at the center of our efforts. So thank you very much. So let us now turn to our panelists for today's webinar. And we have 4 panelists today. And what I'm going to do with the first set of questions is actually ask each of the first panelists, right? I mean, each panelist, the first question. And then after that, we will focus on each panelist around the issues. So the first panelist speaker is Huda Ahmed. She's the Program Officer for Women Action for Advocacy and Progress Organization, WAPO, based in Somaliland, that engages in 3 key areas: protection, youth and innovation, and emergency response. So Huda, I'm going to begin with you by asking you just at this point 1 question, and then I'll move to the next panelist and ask also 1 question, and down the line, then I'll come back to you. So my first question to you, Huda, is, as an organization that programs in a country that has high rates of FGMC, what challenges do women-led or survivor-led organizations face while accessing funds? And how did you find how do you find the application process? Over to you, Huda.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. As women-led organization, I would say, specifically in Somaliland, particularly addressing FGM issues, women-led organizations face significant challenges when accessing funds, like gender-based biases in funding, limited donor priorities around FGM issues, lack of infrastructure or capacity to meet complex donor requirements. Security concerns in conflict-prone regions further complicate our ability to operate. Cultural barriers are there as well. Often they hinder the local acceptance of our initiatives. The application process itself can be lengthy at times and bureaucratic a lot. It requires specialized knowledge and technical expertise that smaller organizations don't have. Organizations that led by women often face other issues like securing maybe a short-term nature of funding. So coupled with shifting donor priorities, making it difficult to our organization to sustain longer-term projects. Being from a country also that is not internationally recognized presents an additional layer of difficulty, as this often limits access to larger international funding sources and reduces the visibility of local organizations on the global stage. This situation is even worse for women-led organizations when compared to organizations that are led by men. We face additional skepticism. We face challenges in securing support compared to male, led organizations. However, when it comes, to this initiative, the TGG-ALM, the application was straightforward, and we benefited from an informative workshop on the grants program, the implementation approach, and the grant making mechanisms as well. The program aimed to provide flexible medium-term funding to grassroots organizations, including women-led organizations and also smaller organizations within the community, so that they can be able to also continue supporting the communities beyond the TGG-ALM initiative and contribute to the movement as well. So as an organization led by women, we are facing a lot of challenges. Additional challenge is that being from a country that is not internationally recognized, but with the TGG-ALM, program, it was very helpful and it was different from the rest of the programs that we normally see. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Huda. So let me move to the next panelist. The next panelist is Mr. Hassan, the Executive Director for Isiolo Human Rights Defenders. So, Mr. Hassan, my first question to you is, as an organization that has graduated from small to medium grants under the TGG-ALM program, what capacity strengthening did your organization benefit from? That's my first question to you, Mr. Hassan. So let me move on to my next panelist. My next panelist is Miss Kidist. She's the M&E and Knowledge Management Director and Safeguarding Focal Point for the Social Development in Ethiopia. Mrs. Kidist, question to you is, anchor grantees are charged with supporting the growth of small and medium grantee partners. In what specific areas has your organization strengthened the capacity of small and medium grantees in Ethiopia?
Yeah, thank you very much, Jacinta, for the introduction. So let me begin with before dive into the question, let me talk about Mahabara Hiwat for Social Development. Our organization has been functional as a local organization in Ethiopia for the last 25 years, working in different parts of the region for more than 7 regions in Ethiopia. So out of the 13 projects we are running, 13 projects which is directly related with the GBV and FGM activities. So out of that, 7 of the projects are functional in Amhara region, which is a conflict and very volatile areas. So to come to the question, TGG-ALM to End FGM initiative is a helpful one to help us to strengthen the capacity of medium and small scale organization. We started our activities by just assessing the capacity of small and medium grantees. Based on the findings, we try to capacitate with their leadership skill, with the project cycle management, with the financial system, the advocacy, the safeguarding, and the like. And finally, we try to, position themselves to stand and challenge the FGM practice in the community. So with this one, we believe that this help, the TGG-ALM initiative practically translate the localization of aid practices on the ground. We are uplifting this small and medium scale organization to come to the driver's seat and challenge these FGM practices, which is a very challenging and long-standing, problem in our community. Thank you very much. Now over to you, Jacinta.
Thank you, Kidist, and I'll come back to you. I want to move to the 5th panelist, Caleb Okoyo. He's the grants lead on the TGG program. Caleb is a skilled grants management specialist with over 15 years experience providing grants and financial technical expertise to international and local implementing partners in East, Central, and Southern Africa. So he leads and delivers on our innovative, participatory, and adaptive grants-making mechanism at TGG-ALM. So, Caleb, I have one question to ask you to start off this discussion, and my question is, giving grants to grassroots organizations continues to play a crucial role in ensuring resources reach the ground. From your perspective, how have grants contributed to driving change to the End FGMC movement? Yes, Caleb.
Thank you very much, Jacinta. Now, our grants mechanism, which is a participatory grant mechanism, is an accessible grants mechanism whereby we work with the small and medium and anchor grantees in the 4 regions. And so far, when we talk about change, I would say that we've empowered grassroots organizations, we've empowered survivors, we've also empowered youth to engage in ending FGM activities and also to accelerate positive change in social attitudes towards ending FGM. And again, apart from that, through our capacity strengthening initiative, we've been able to bring up new leaders who are able to lead these small organizations to be able to manage the grants which we are giving, we are granting to them. Apart from that, the changes we are seeing is the promotion of discussion around FGM. These initiatives are being led by the survivors who are our champions and also the community leaders who we are engaging in community dialogue and also gathering and encouraging the discussion around ending FGM. And we see changes happening within different target group within this community and also in shifting of attitudes and the norms. The other change we are seeing is having strong institutions coming up who are able to go out there, apply for funds, and be able to be funded to get more grants to continue with the initiatives to end FGM in their different communities. Remember, as one of the speakers talked about, many of these grantees we are targeting are not able to get grants because of their capacity. But through the TGG-ALM program and the capacity strengthening initiative, these organizations now are able to stand alone and look for funds from other interested funders and stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caleb. I want to come now back to Huda, and then by then, I hope the other panelists who were challenged will be able to join in as well. So Huda, I come back to you with 2 questions. The first one is, how do you ensure that the voices of girls and women are centered in your activities? And what changes have you therefore seen while engaging communities in Somaliland? Over to you, Huda. That's my question to you.
Yes, thank you again. So during, the application of the grant itself, the application was more focused on the stories of the young FGM survivors who live within the community that we serve. Beyond the grant application and during the implementation, we try to actively involve girls in leadership roles and decision-making processes, not only within the TGG-ALM initiative, but also within all of our programs. For instance, in our Hero in Me FGM school clubs, girls are encouraged to lead activities like cultural performance, talent shows, ensuring that their voices are central in advocating for FGM prevention. We also organize age-appropriate peer support group sessions, specifically for adolescent girls, focusing on their rights, coping strategies, and also psychosocial well-being. Our creative campaigns and community outreach activities are also designed to directly engage girls by sharing experiences, challenges, and messages about FGM as well. Through social media events like Masrah Space, we also create platforms for girls to express their views on issues like FGM and forced marriage as well, ensuring that their participation in discussion and the shaping of key messages as well. So we, as the organization, as one of the anchor organizations in Somaliland, we prioritize girls' involvement at every level, from grassroots engagement to leadership roles. We also ensure that our initiatives are truly girl inclusive as well. So from that, we've seen that young girls are now open to speak up about the issues that they are facing and also come up so that we can provide services beyond, awareness. beyond prevention messages, but also as a response type of it as well. Over to
Thank you, Huda. Thank you. And then my last question to you, Huda, is Somaliland recently approved the National Anti-FGMC policy. How does this new policy support efforts? What impact do you expect with the new policy on communities and organizations who are working on the ground?
I would say the policy was just approved by the government of Somaliland. So it's been for almost, I believe, 3 months now. So we believe that a significant milestone in the fight to end FGM. We would gain a lot from that policy, as it will provide a comprehensive framework for legal, cultural, and social change. This policy also will support ongoing efforts by establishing clear guidelines for the prevention, protection, and support of FGM survivors as well. It strengthens legal measures, provides authorities with a mandate to take action against those who perform or promote FGM. It ensures that there is a coordinated response across sectors like health, education, and law enforcement as well. By aligning community-based efforts with national laws, the policy also facilitates greater collaboration between grassroots organizations such as ourselves, local authorities, and national bodies to ensure a unified approach to eliminating FGM across Somaliland. The policy also is expected to have a profound impact on communities and organizations working on the ground. For communities, for example, it will enhance awareness about the harmful effects of FGM. It will promote social change, encourage communities to reject harmful practices, and adapt proactive protective measures for girls within Somaliland. We also, as organization, will have legal backing, because that has been, an issue that we've been dealing with. We can now hold perpetrators accountable. So more or less, I would say that. Yeah, over to you, Jacinta.
Thank you very much, Huda. Thank you for those very insightful responses to my questions. So thank you. Now let's move back to Mr. Hassan, the Executive Director for Isiolo Human Rights Defenders. So my first question to you, Mr. Hassan, is, as an organization that has graduated from small to medium grants, what capacity strengthening did your organization benefit from?
Thank you, Madam Jacinta. Through ALM and TGG trainings, they have empowered us in leadership and governance training, organizational financial management training, meal training, safeguarding training, communication and smart advocacy training, and review of policies, financial policies, procurement policies, safeguarding policies, meal policies, human resource policies, board manual, and this had been very, very helpful to us. We thank ALM TGG and all the consortium for giving us this opportunity, which raised our organization from small grant to medium grant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My next question to you then is, what lessons can you share with audiences as they seek to apply for grants, not just from TGG-ALM, but from other donors? What lessons can you share? You've just shared with us the capacity strengthening that happened. You said that enabled you to grow from small to medium grants. What lessons can you share with us today?
Okay, what changes have you implemented that allow the IHRD to grow from small to medium? We changed our awareness raising strategy from being conducted in town and in hotels to the village level using organized groups to reach the affected community. Constituting board and organizational leadership of IHRD to streamline project implementation. IHRD has transformed from cash payment to M-Pesa payment to enhance transparency and accountability. Improvement in development and submission of both narrative and financial report. This is where we improved, and I believe this is what made us move from the small grant to medium grant. Thank you.
So a follow-up question to that. What lessons can you share today for those who seek to apply for grants, not just from TGG-ALM, but from other donors as well? What lessons?
That we will share today is organizations should register organization and adhere to government legal requirements. Always put the interest of your community first before personal interest. This will enable organizations to grow. Transparency and accountability is best donor. Bookkeeping all donors. Adherence is best what will help you in securing funds. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I know you've had challenges, but we've heard that, so thank you very much. I would like now to call upon Mrs. Adiata. My first question to you, Mrs. Adiata, is how is the Grants Advisory Committee selected and formed? You're the president of Grants Advisory Committee in Senegal, so there are experiences you can share with us. How is it selected and formed? And the follow-up there will be, and what is its role? Go ahead, Ms. Adiata.
Merci beaucoup, merci. Et merci d'avoir l'opportunité de participer à ce grand panel. Ça va me permettre de connaître en même temps le partenaire. Merci. Voilà, un rappel. Je vous rappelle que le comité a été créé le 26 avril 2023 à Tambacounda. Donc, c'est suite aux échanges, à l'explication de Khaled qui a expliqué le programme d'une manière plus simple et compréhensible, comment le programme ALM fonctionne, quel est l'objectif du programme et comment on peut obtenir les financements, les possibilités de postuler pour avoir les subventions. Donc, après ces explications détaillées très claires, donc j'étais là comme candidate pour vraiment mon organisation. Mais suite à ces explications, donc une sélection a été faite pour tous les candidats qui sont là pour déposer des subventions. Mais au-delà de cette subvention, il devait avoir un comité de suivi des subventions. Donc, tout le monde ne pouvait pas postuler comme leader de financement. Donc, il fallait un comité. Donc, vu les explications, vu les opportunités qui sont dans le comité, donc nous nous sommes retirés pour quand même postuler pour ce comité. J'avoue que ça a été un peu très difficile, mais vraiment, je suis très, très, très satisfaite du comité. Parce que j'ai vu que la sélection a été bien faite. Toutes les couches sont représentées dans cette sélection. Il y a eu les personnes vivant avec handicap, il y a eu les jeunes filles leaders, il y a eu aussi les clubs de jeunes filles, il y a les tatas du quartier qui sont porteuses de voix dans les localités. Il y a eu aussi des associations communautaires de base qui sont dans les quartiers. Il y a eu aussi les leaders. Il y a aussi des leaders religieuses qui sont représentées dans le comité. Vous voyez, le comité vraiment, c'est un comité qui est vraiment coloré parce qu'il y a toutes les couches. Et aussi, ce qui a fait du comité aussi aujourd'hui, c'est le comité est représenté par une dame qui est moi, qui représente, je suis la présidente du comité consultatif pour le suivi des subventions. Donc, vous voyez, c'est une opportunité d'être dans le comité. Même si on n'est pas bénéficiaire des subventions, moi, je pense que c'est une opportunité d'être dans le comité. Donc, c'est comme ça que le comité consultatif du suivi des subventions a été créé, comme ça, dans la région de Tambacounda. Donc, l'autre question par rapport à l'autre question, c'est quel est le rôle du comité? Je peux dire qu'aujourd'hui, le comité a joué un grand rôle dans la sélection de ces organisations. Vous savez, quand le projet est venu dans notre localité, donc c'est nous qui maîtrisons les personnes, les leaders qui évoluent dans le domaine de la protection, dans le domaine de l'excision. Donc, le comité a aidé le programme à faire le choix de ses bénéficiaires. C'est vrai, il y a eu des questions, il y a eu des documents, mais le comité a fourni des informations complémentaires pour le choix de ses bénéficiaires. Aussi, le comité joue le rôle d'aviseur et de suivi. Et maintenant, de suivi, parce que nous suivons les bénéficiaires dans leurs activités et voir comment ça se déroule. Nous ne jouons pas un rôle de gendarme et de contrôle, mais nous sommes là pour les suivre dans les activités, pour voir ce qui a marché, ce qui n'a pas marché, pour essayer ensemble d'apporter des mesures de correction pour que ça marche. Ça, c'est le rôle du comité. Et puis, le comité aussi a joué un rôle tampon entre les bénéficiaires du programme et les autorités. J'avoue que moi, en tant que présidente, je suis le point focal du comité départemental pour la protection de l'enfant, dirigé par le préfet du département de Tamba. Donc, moi, je suis la point focal organisation. Donc, j'ai un rôle à jouer. Donc, cette mise en relation a été faite par vraiment le comité. Donc, ça a été très facile d'aborder le préfet et de faire une rencontre autour des tables où il y a toutes les bénéficiaires et aussi le comité aviseur. Donc ça, le comité joue ce rôle-là aussi. Le comité joue aussi le rôle de coordination entre les bénéficiaires et le comité. Et des fois aussi, même le rôle de coordination entre les bénéficiaires aussi avec le programme ALM. Donc ça aussi, c'est notre rôle. L'autre question, vous pouvez me rappeler la dernière question? Hello?
So the final question is, it's now 1 year down the line. What have your experiences been as the CAG? In brief, what has your experience been?
Voilà, merci beaucoup pour la question. J'ai fait 1 an. Vraiment, j'avoue que j'ai acquis beaucoup de connaissances, beaucoup même. Et je ne regrette pas d'être dans le comité. Parce qu'au début, je me disais que mon organisation n'a pas gagné, n'a pas été sélectionnée. Mais j'avoue qu'aujourd'hui, je me sens à l'aise dans le comité. Vu les formations que j'ai reçues, les formations que nous avons tous reçues dans le comité, les 9 membres du comité, nous ont permis aujourd'hui d'être des leaders dans notre localité. d'avoir beaucoup de connaissances sur les outils et éventuellement s'il y a un dépôt, peut-être là, nous avons tous les éléments nécessaires pour fournir. Ça nous a permis aussi d'être en règle, c'est-à-dire les documents que nous ne disposons pas aujourd'hui, on est allé à la recherche de ces documents. Et même si on n'est pas dans le programme ALM, ces documents vont nous servir demain pour d'autres programmes. Et j'ai gagné beaucoup de relations. À travers ces relations, j'ai beaucoup appris, beaucoup même, à travers les gens. Donc, chaque rencontre fait l'objet d'un renforcement de capacité, surtout les rencontres que ALM organise dirigées par Option. Et puis, le coaching que Option fait souvent, et ça m'a permis quand même aussi de grandir. De grandir et vraiment de donner une hauteur à mon entreprise. Donc ça, j'ai gagné beaucoup d'expérience sur ça. Et j'ai aussi appris des leçons qui vont me servir demain d'évoluer dans d'autres programmes et aussi de se hisser vraiment très loin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I come back to Ms. Kidist. Ms. Kidist, I have two questions for you. You mentioned earlier about, given the conflict in Amhara and Afar region, that this has certain consequences. So how have the grants supported local organizations in implementing initiatives given this context? And links to that, I think, speak to what successes are then possible or have been achieved given this context. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the questions. As I mentioned earlier, we are working in conflict and very volatile area in Amhara region. We implemented this TGG-ALM project or initiative to end FGM in Amhara area in South Gondar, particularly in two waradas, Farta and Guna, in targeting 14 qabalis, which is a small counties. So by doing such kinds of things, yeah, actually we are operating in conflict areas, but we didn't stop, functioning this project. The reason behind this one is we implemented or we put or adopted conflict adaptive strategies we put in place. This implied that it's a fact of practicing local solution for the local problems. We just promote such kinds of things. Initially, what we did during the initiative, we employed local staffs from the local area, knowing the culture, the context, and the language of the community. This was a good entry point for us to dive in directly to the community and convey the FGM message. So the TGG-ALM initiative was well accepted at the very instance in this, despite the challenge that we have faced. On top of this, we have been using community structures as an entry point, both the formal and informal structures, just to sustain and to come up with community transformation and sustainable engagement to tackle with FGM. The other important approach I would suggest, or we have already adopted a USAID CLA approach. CLA stands to collaborative learning and adaptive strategy. We collaborate with government structures at the community level. We work with different religious institutions, other local government structures and local community structures, the private sector, community representatives, influential leaders that helped us to collaborate and exert our efforts to push the frontier forward. On top of this, we learn as a learning organization, as an anchor organization, we learn different experiences from small and medium scale organization and from the local context as well. And we directly adapt. So the CLA approach from the very onset up to the project implementation and up to now, we live and breathe these kinds of experience to sustain in that conflict situation. Hope this experience will help us, even, to scale up in other situations. These are the learning we obtained. So as a follow-up question, Jacinta, about the successes you have already mentioned about the second question, while we are implementing this initiative, we would like to appreciate the Girls' Generation Africa-led movement initiative to end FGM, which is a long-standing and deep entrenched cultural challenges. So this helped us to bring mindset change in culture, in societal norms, and such kinds of things. So the important achievement that we did is we just able to sensitize the community that we are doing, and then we are able to reach the faith-based organization, community-based organization, health extension workers, even as we are able to harvest outcomes, particularly in the health extension services over the area. Even 67 girls, they refuse to be cut. So this is a good, it's a good achievement for us. On top of this is a good success as well. And the other one is, if it's a local community structure, which is found at the, at the grassroots community. So we used them as an entry, as a game-changing in, challenging FGM practices in the community. And even these other, they are able to change their bylaws, their bylaws and own it, and in the anti-FGM practices. So the religious leaders, the influencer, anti-FGM team leaders are also, served as a game changing for this initiative. So I can say a lot, even we have established, a meaningful collaboration and stakeholder engagement at the grassroots level. So this is the outcome that we are able to harvest. So I think at this very moment, we have already established groundbreaking discussions and community sensitization regarding tackling zero tolerance for FGM, kinds of initiative. So this is what I would like to say. Thank you so much, Janita. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Kidist. So let me move to our final panelists with the final questions. I now turn back to Caleb. Caleb, as I said, is the grants lead for the TGG-ALM program. So Caleb, I have two questions for you. The first one is, we have received both positive and critical feedback on the grants mechanism. Can you shed some light on the selection process of grantee partners? And then I'm going to end that by asking a question around the fact that we've been at this for 3 years now, 3 years down the line, and I want to end on a happy note. What has given you the most joy in this role? Over to you, Caleb.
Okay, thanks, Jacinta, and thanks, everyone. I want to take us through our selection process. As I said at the beginning, our grants mechanism is a participatory grant mechanism. It's whereby we bring the decision-making to the community. Having the community participating on deciding where the grant goes to, where the needs, because the community understands the needs, the demands, and the priority for their community. And based on that, we involve them in deciding where the grant goes. And we have stages how the grant process starts and how it ends, including how we select the grants. I'll just briefly talk about them because of time. First of all, we do what we call a scoping and validation of these small grassroots organizations. And this, when we talk of small grassroots organization, this being a girl-centered program, we look at organizations who are girl-led, who are women-led, who are youth-led. We are looking at activists, survivor-led. And these organizations, they have to come from these communities where we are focusing. We are looking at organizations working in the remote areas where actually the act of FGM, the violence is taking place. And these organizations, during the scoping and validation, we bring in an independent consultant to validate that these organizations are actually within these communities. What we are trying to avoid is to have that kind of funding, the conventional funding, whereby everything falls at the urban areas, where because these organizations we are targeting, they are not able to access this opportunity. We go to the community to do the scoping and validation. And when this scoping and validation is done by the independent consultant, the independent consultant will listen to what these small grantees, these small grassroots organizations needs are. And they will give us the feedback if this grant mechanism is relevant to them, how best can we support them, and what is the best mechanism to support them based on, to grant them funds based on the local contents. Based on the scoping and validation, these grantees who've been, the potential grantees who've been scoped and validated, we'll call them for a meeting. And for a meeting, we have these meetings not in town, but we go to the community again, where the scoping and validation was done. We bring them all the CSOs, the survivor-led organization, the youth, the self-help group, we bring them in a meeting. And their first agenda is for us to let them understand our grants mechanism and for them to give us a feedback if that our grants mechanism is feasible in that region. Then they'll give us a feedback. Based on the feedback, we go to the second agenda. If the mechanism can work in that region, we do our first selection of grants advisory committee. The president of Tambaconda has already talked about the mandate of the grants advisory committee. I'll not go into that. And the grants, the only thing I'll talk about at that stage, the grants committee will recommend the organizations who are going to be taken for pre-award training. Thus, we'll go to the third stage, which is pre-award training. Now, the organizations who've been recommended will train them. What do we train them on? We train them on the application, on applying, on application, and also on reporting, and also the documentations which are needed. We are moving. We moved away from the conventional way of application, whereby there's call of proposals where you need a lot of comprehensive documentations. At the back of our mind, we are targeting the small grantees who we definitely know they don't have this documentation. Some of them only have the registration certificate, and they are composed of volunteers. So we take them through this simple application form, which they're trained on how to fill each and every section. Thereafter, we send out a call of application. Our call of applications, it's not an open one. It's a restricted call of applications, which only targets the CBOs and the groups who attended the pre-award training. This one is to enable the organizations who are not able to get application because of the many requirements by the donors, high chances of getting the grants. After the call of applications, we do the review of these applications, which takes us through the eligibility criteria. We look at the registration. How are they managed? How are they run? Who are the leadership people in these organizations? Then we take the technical reviews. We look at the proposed activities which the organizations are proposing, because we are not insisting on a specific activities to undertake for this end FGM intervention. So what we give them an opportunity to do that, because we'll have another session where we'll engage on how to go. Then we look at the locations which they've proposed. Of course, they have to work within our focused area of locations. Currently, we are working only in 4 countries, that is Senegal, Ethiopia, Somaliland, and Kenya. And we have regions where we are working within in those 4 countries. Thereafter, we take these organizations through due diligence for risk management purposes. to ensure that these organizations are authentic. With the support of the Grants Advisory Committee, we do referrals, we do referral checks. We also engage the Grants Advisory Committee to check for us if these organizations really exist in those localities. Thereafter, those who qualify, we do the contracting. And again, after contracting, we bring them back to discussion on co-creation. Remember, I talked about them doing a proposal on which activities they are undertaking. Again, we are giving them an opportunity after contracting to co-create what interventions they are proposed. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because we want to see, as a program, we want to align whatever they are proposing to our program set objective, because there are some of the activities which have been undertaken previously which are not working. So we want to eliminate the ones which we already know that they are not working to the ones which we perceive to be working, for them to be tested in those regions. So we co-create with them. And again, we create the sense of ownership, because when you involve the community in co-creation, they'll be able to own those processes and they'll be able to deliver. That's the end of our selection process up to now, the inception. Then we give them funds for them to go out there and do implementation. Thank you. Back to you, Jacinta.
Thank you, Caleb. My last question to you was really more of a reflection about what has it been like, what has given you joy as we are now down to, it's 3 years down the line.
What has given joy, I'll talk of specific ones. First of all is the number of grantees we've reached. We've reached 80 plus grantees. And from the testimonies we are getting, the feedback we are getting, we've met one of our objectives of reaching the organizations who've never been funded. We've had organizations who've grown through our own interventions. You've heard some of them talk about moving from small to medium. These are organizations who've grown from through our own initiatives, they've been able to grow. So that's given me joy, because these organizations, they could not even know where to get the funds, but now is an opportunity for them to grow, and they've embraced our initiative, and they are able to grow. The other thing is about the program being a learning and adaptive program. Every day we learn what is happening. We are not reinventing the wheel, but the grantees are able to learn and at the same time adapt. So we are working on what is really working, and what is not working, we learn from that and see how we are going to adapt. And then the effectiveness of our program. Through the feedback we've already gotten, the organizations, the small grassroots organizations and the communities are giving us feedback that there's that positive change of social attitude in ending FGM. Then the other aspect of this program is on the capacity strengthening. The capacity strengthening, most donors are not into that, but here is a program where we give you money to go and intervene. At the same time, we are building your capacity. This capacity strengthening component ensure that you have that sustainability. So when I look at organizations, as much as at some point this program has to end, I'm sure and very confident that they'll continue implementing ending FGM interventions in their locality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caleb. Thank you. So we come to the conclusion of discussions with our panelists, and I want to thank them very much for the information they have shared, the knowledge they've also shared. And in doing so, we have received important, critical insights around how the program works, how it has worked, and heard from the field as well. So thank you to all the panelists.
Madam Jacinta,
so what I want to do now is actually hand over to Walter and Sagda, who will moderate the Q&A and comment session. I see very, very many, a lot of information, questions in the chat. There is no way, of course, that we can address all of them. So let me hand over to Walter and Sagda, and it's only going to be 15 minutes, Walter and Sagda, so that we can then have our closing remarks, because this conversation can really never be finished. But what's good about it is that we've started it with the hope that we can continue. So over to you, Walter and Sagda. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta, and everyone. My name is Saada Mahmoud. I support in this program through a grantees officer in Somaliland. And I wanted to open some of comments from a chat comment. I wanted to take one of my mother. She said, thank you very much for this webinar and sharing. I wanted to know to what extent the local organization working on a FGM involving the grandmothers giving their role and influencing with families and communities is through our website of www.girlgeneration.org and the other social media platform at a Girl Generation. Over to you, Walter.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Walter Wekesa, the grants officer supporting Kenya. I've not been able to map questions from the comments, so I may just invite 2 or 3 from the members.
Allow me to just pick up from there because I don't know what is happening with Walter. And there are a couple of questions here that we can look out for and also some comments. There's one question here from Mamadou, and I think this we can pose to the team in Senegal, especially both Caleb and also Adiata. And she says, thank you very much for this webinar and sharing. I wanted to know to what extent local organizations working on FGM involve grandmothers, given their role and influence within families and communities, especially regarding the practice of FGM. So Adiata, if you can answer that for us, and also Caleb, given your extent of engaging with the grantees in Senegal. Thank you. Caleb, do you want to pick that up for us in terms of the people who are engaging in the ground in Senegal?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. Yeah, we have some of the organizations in Tambaconda who are involving grandmothers. I can't remember which ones, but maybe the person who is on the ground, like the president, can tell us more about this involvement of grandmothers, because I know we have mothers who are involved. There are some forums, community dialogue, where we bring in the religious leaders, the mothers, some of them who are former cutters, into dialogue and into passing the message of ending FGM in their respective regions, and also using them as the people who are there, who are the cultural custodian to influence the new generation into ending FGM.
The other comment that you are seeing here is that so there's someone from, I think, Kasahun, who's saying to compliment on what my colleagues suggested. The small and medium grantees have acquired the needed capacity support and contributed their maximum effort towards minimizing FGMC incidences. So thank you very much for that comment. And then Tereje, who is a GAC member in Ethiopia, says that he's eager to share experiences from other countries' GACs on how they support sub-grantees. And I know that we've heard from all the countries. Because of time, we cannot listen to many more speakers at this time. And so let me look at one more comment and then we can go to the closing remarks. So Kasaun says that he's the project manager for MSD and that he was hoping to hear in French, which I believe now has been sorted out. And we are happy to also have people joining us in from Nigeria, the areas that we also happen to be affected by FGM. And I think I want to hand this over back to Jacinta, who can get us to the next session of closing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. And I'm really sorry that there have been some challenges with our technologies. But I think we've been able to have a productive sort of listening and hearing and learning from those on the ground. And there hasn't been enough time to listen to or speak to all the comments and questions and reflections that are in the chat. But they are in the chat, they're captured in the chat. And for this, we're very grateful. We will look at them more closely. So I would like to move to closing, and to move to closing, as we come to the end of this webinar, we want to invite Mohammed Silla. He's the Executive Director for ActionAid Somaliland, and he will give us the closing remarks. Over to you, Mr. Silla. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And greetings from Nairobi, somewhere in Nairobi. I'm joining this call. Okay, first of all, I really want to thank all the panelists. I was really impressed with what has been shared today. Thank them very much for the experiences, the personal things they've shared from Ethiopia, from Somaliland, from Kenya. And so it's been very, very insightful. So I really want to thank them for that. And all the participants who have been posting their comments on the chats. Unfortunately, as you said, we cannot answer all those questions, but I'm sure this conversation will continue. This is just the beginning of a long-term discussion. And I do identify some of the issues that they are mentioning. One that is of significant, like the passing of the policy in Somaliland, the anti-FGM policy. We see it as a breakthrough because it's taken like over 10 years for the government itself to put a commitment in black and white that they are committed to zero tolerance to FGM. That's a very strong patriarchal society, highly religious. For the government to take that bold decision and come out, for me, I think that's a big step and a step in the right direction. It's something that now gives us leverage and gives us opportunity to open the discussion. And something that has even opened up some more learnings. Like for ActionAid, just after that policy was passed, I joined my team. We went to the Eastern region, and there were some people there even working for government who said they were not consulted, the religious leaders were not involved. And as TGG being a program that is a learning program, we immediately thought, let's find an opportunity to now start talking to the religious leaders. I was very happy to hear from some of the learnings here. In some of the contexts, they've been working with religious leaders as a way forward to help to move this process. If I just summarize as a key takeaways from everything that I've had here, one, with special reference from what Huda said, Somaliland is a special context, a difficult country to recognize, having difficulty in accessing funds, even for social services. So it's been a big challenge. And with small organizations, that was a big challenge. And how TGG has changed this narrative is a big learning point I think we should all be proud of. Most donors, they don't have that time to teach you how to apply for the grant and how to manage it and how to grow. No, they just make an advertisement. If you are qualified, you go for it. If you're not qualified, you leave it. But this detailed approach that Caleb shared of how the program goes around and actually getting the selection is very innovative, and I think something we should be proud of. I think I'm also impressed with what do we do with those who do not succeed to get the grants, like to form the committee that will now monitor and supervise those who have received the grants. This is another big and laudable initiative that's not common in many other programs, where people might be a bit disappointed, but now they have another role to play. I didn't get the money, but I have a bigger role to play to actually make sure those who got the fund do the right thing and it benefits the entire community and the country. For me, that's a very, very big thing. Then I was also happy, another key takeaway from me was the capacity building. As our colleague from Isiolo was sharing, that has now helped them to be better at implementing, better at writing reports, and even getting further opportunities to raise funds on their own now. That is a big learning. Of course, the different approaches that everyone else has mentioned that we are using are all, for me, big takeaways. So generally, it's been a very inspiring session for me, and I really, really want to thank everybody that participated in this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Silla, for those kind words and encouraging words. So thank you. So I want to conclude and close the meeting by saying it is really wonderful to see such a diverse and regional representation at our webinar today. Several reflections, critical comments for us to take on board have been shared, and all of these will help strengthen our grants program. Because success for us will be that The grantees we've had the honor of working with have strengthened their systems, have strengthened their capacities, they have grown, and they now stand positioned to seek the resources they need or require. So once again, thank you everyone for joining this webinar. Have a very good evening. Bye-bye now.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.